Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum dear students. I'm your teacher Simeen Amir and today I'm here again with a new lecture. I hope everything is going well with you and your family. Let's begin with today's lecture. This is my lecture number 19 for grade 01 and today we have a geography class. We have already started unit number 9 which is about the industrial development of Pakistan. In the previous lecture, we learnt about the industrial estates, and I've told you that this is industrial estates is an area. Is industrial estate is an area that is zoned and planned for the purpose of industrial development. This is like we can say estate can be thought of as a more heavyweight version of a business park or office estate, which has offices and light industries rather than heavy industries. So an industry of building intended primarily for industrial purposes like factories and related services and infrastructure rather than for living in. So it provides all infrastructure facilities such as power, transport, water and lighting at a reasonable cost. And the main objective of establishing industrial state is to attract industries to industrially backward areas, which will make the country a regionally well balanced area. So these areas are usually located on the edges of or outside the main residential area of a city and are normally provided with good transportation access and including road and railways. One such example is a large number of industrial estates located along the River Thames in the Gateway area of London. So here in Pakistan we have a few industrial states and the government have provided so many advantages, so many infrastructure facilities to these areas. And there is a special industrial zone which is like a scheme of industrial special zone was planned to support the manufacture and trade of various export products. And it is like the development, it's the types of development concepts, incentives, facilities offered by the government to attract local and foreign investors. We also learned about the government industrial policy since independence, and that was the industrialization and the private sector in the early years. And it was like, especially, we talked about the Pakistan Industrial Development Corporation, who that was established to work for the development of the industries, and it was quite successful in establishing many large scale industries in Pakistan. Then we learned about the nationalization policy, which was like many of the private industries or companies were owned by the government or brought under the public sector. Then we learned about the denationalization, which was like many of the nationalized industries were given back to their former owners. And in 1977, the martial law government gave assurance that no further industries would be nationalized. Then we learned about the privatization, and the privatization of state-owned enterprises has been promoted, and it was like the policies of liberalization, which is like independence for them to reduce restriction on them, and deregulation to removal of all the regulations are followed all over the world. Now today's topic is the formal and informal sector on page number 165. And the formal sector utilizes capital, unskilled labor, and skilled labor in production and produces a traded good which is both an investment and a consumption good. The informal sector uses capital and unskilled labor in production and produces a non-traded consumption good. So, in some of the informal we can say sector includes food and flea markets, street vendors, and many more. But in the formal sector, since these businessmen are rarely registered at national or regional levels, are cash based and thus do not pay taxes and usually do not have formal arrangements with employees. So, in more recent, we can say the informal sector in which the urban poor are concentrated and which are typically characterized by the little capital use, low level of organization and small size. But in the formal sector which encompasses all jobs with normal hours and regular wages and are recognized as income sources on which income taxes must be paid. This is totally opposite of informal sector. So the formal and informal sectors are important for Pakistan in many ways, like they provide industrial goods to meet the requirement of the domestic market. Here I'm talking about both the sectors, not for any one of the sectors. So both the sectors can and both sectors can meet the requirements of the domestic market. They generate employment opportunities in the industrial sector. The informal sector makes use of domestic raw material, thus no burden on imports. Some products of the formal and informal sectors are exported and earn foreign exchange for the country. And then the informal sector does not require imported machinery and high technology as it saves foreign exchange resources. Contribution of the formal and informal sector in the development of industries. Both the formal and informal sectors promote industrial growth in Pakistan. The formal sector includes many local and multinational companies which are registered with the government. The examples of formal sectors are Pakistan Steel Mill, Cotton Textile Mill, Pharmaceutical companies, Angro Corporation, Unilever, Procter and Gamble, Parco, which is Park Oil Arab Refinery Company, McDonald, KFC, etc. All these are formal industries. These industrial units make use of modern technology, follow international standards, and produce standardized goods. And the formal sector plays a positive role in the industrial expansion of Pakistan. These industries contribute to goods and services for the domestic and international markets, provide employment and contribute to the GDP of the country. So that's how the formal sector plays its role in the development of the country. They are we can say registered companies. They have their own SOPs. They have their own rules and regulation, and they have to follow all the rules and regulation and even the formalities of the industries. But the informal sector is totally different. The informal sector includes only local industries units which are not registered with the government. Some of the examples of the informal sectors are like cottage industries. Cottage means small houses, so it means like the industries inside the houses of the people. They are small industries, and such as making carpets, making rugs, embroidery, pottery, ceramics, traditional textile units, unregistered food industries, unregistered food processing units. We have a lot of people here. Even we can say in Bahria town, they are making their frozen food and they are selling their food by on a mean of social media, especially on Facebook. So this is because they are not registered with the company. They are not paying taxes to the. They are not registered with the government. They are not paying taxes to the government. So they are, we can say, employed, or we can say they are earning in an informal sector. But like me, I am working in a school. The school is like BTIA is a big institution that is obviously a formal sector, because I have to follow many of the SOPs of the school. I have to follow many of the policies of the school, and the school, like, they can't just fire me at once. They have to give me reasons. They have to ask me for any of the problem. They will give me any show cause notice. So this is how we can say this is formal sector. But in informal sector, there is no restrictions on the employee on the employer or even on the employee. Anyone can leave the job, like the person who are working at our home is working in informal sector, and they can leave us anytime they want. So they also contribute to industrial expansion, but in many cases produce substandard industrial products. Lack of standardization and no quality control lower the confidence of consumers and reduce demand for these goods. So the profit of industry is curtailed. Curtailed means to reduced, and consequently, in many cases, it negatively affects industrial growth. However, despite a weak structure, the informal sector is constantly expanding because it supplies low-priced goods to the people. Cottage and small-scale industries. A cottage industry is a small scale, decentralized manufacturing business often operated out of a home rather than a purpose built facility. Cottage industries are defined by the amount of investment required to start as well as the number of people involved employed in it. These small scale industries are those industries in which the manufacturing, production, and rendering of services are done on a small, or we can say on a micro scale. These industries make a one time investment in machinery, plants, and industries. This cottage industry is different from a small scale industry. The cottage industry is one which is carried on wholly or primarily with the help of members of the family, either as a whole or part time occupation. But the small scale industry, on the other hand, is one which is operated mainly with hard labor, usually employing 10 to 50 persons. So, this cottage industry is manufacturing activity operated at home, and the handcraft sold, for example, is the embroidery work or the pottery or the ceramic work is the examples are the of the cottage industries. Cottage craft and small scale industries in Pakistan. Cottage, or we can say household industries, hold an important position in the rural sector. Most villages are self sufficient in the basic necessities of life. They have their own carpenters, their blacksmiths. Blacksmith is a metalsmith, we can say, the one who are making things from iron rod or steel. In Urdu, we can say lohar. The potters, craftsmen, and cotton weavers. Cotton weavers are the one who are those who are making weaving clothes and carpets from the cotton. Many families depends on cottage industries for their income. Cottage industries have also gained immense importance or great importance in cities and towns. There's a great demand for hand woven carpets, embroidered work, brassware. Brassware is, like we can say, some of the decoration piece that is made of brass, which is a yellow colored metal that is basically built from copper and zinc, and rugs and traditional bangles. These are also considered important export items and are in good demand in international market. Then is why is it important to encourage cottage and small scale industries? But there's a blue line with this content. So I'll give you a brief explanation, like there are meager resources, or we can say limited resources to develop large scale industries. So that's why there is an importance of the small scale industries, and it provides like employment opportunities. It can traditionally, like, women are not encouraged to work outside, but some of the women are working at home in these small cottage industries, and these industries also meet the local demand for industrial goods, we can say, and they're using locally built or locally made raw material. They can use the local raw material that will reduce the price of the commodity. And obviously there's high demand for rugs, carpets, and brassware handicrafts of and even of embroidered work in the international market, so through which we can meet the need of this demand. Then when people are employed gainfully in villages, the migration of people from rural or urban areas will be reduced. So it will reduce urbanization, and that is already burdenizing the city areas. So that is good for city areas, especially that urbanization will be reduced. Then many districts are under development. With the expansion of such industries, the regional disparity in income can be reduced because some of the areas are totally neglected by the government. So with the development of these industries, the areas will be developed, and then these industries make effective use of local raw material. As I said, this is important. Then small scale industries does not require much capital, and anyone can start this type of small scale industries in their home. Then cottage and small scale industries do not use much imported material or equipment. Usually they are using their local raw material, and this waste of large scale industries can be used as a byproducts in other making of other goods. That is the types of cottage and small scale industries. There is a web of cottage and small scale industries in Pakistan in almost every village. There are a number of such industries depending upon the size of the village and the demand for the products. The establishment of such industry is closely related to the availability of raw material, traditional skills, climatic condition, and in several cases, the local specialization in the organized factory sector. So there is a large variety of handicrafts available in Pakistan. They are not only aesthetically pleasing items. Aesthetical pleasing means it is concerned with beauty, so that is so beautiful. But they also serve the needs of local people. Some of these industries produce important export items. Recently, exports of non-cotton products have faced increasing trade barriers as public opinion in industrialized countries has expressed growing concern about child labor. This is the main problem of Pakistan, that because of this child labor, we are facing so many international barriers or sanctions on our industries. Then is the environmental and health standards also, that in Pakistan we have outdated machinery, and there's a bad environment and so many health issues. These concerns are being addressed now. Cottage and small scale industries include carpet, textile, embroidery, jewelry, ceramics, woodwork, and metalwork, etc. So here are some of the advantages of cottage and small scale industries. And in the earlier slides, I have explained all these points, like make use of industrial waste, reduce regional disparity, little burden on imports, reduces urbanization, good use of local raw material, it's less capital and less sophisticated technologies involved, gainful employment of women, a source of foreign exchange earnings, meets the demands of local market and employment in the rural areas. Sports goods industry. The sports goods industry of Pakistan plays a vital role in international trade of sports goods. Now the industry is exporting its products to many countries of the world. The city of Sialkot has been a center of excellence for the production of sports goods for more than 100 years. The first record of manufacturing of sports goods in Sialkot can be traced back to 1883 with the products such as cricket bats, hockey sticks, polo sticks, and the football especially, that is even used in the FIFA World Cup, that is especially going for a FIFA World Cup, and it is used even for from a few years. The sports goods industry located in Sialkot is one of the main medium small industries which is export oriented. Like the products are leading to exports. The industry uses raw materials such as rubber, wood pulp, stitching thread, leather, etc. from brand names companies, both local and imported from Japan, Korea, and England. These enterprises are financed mostly through family savings. Now, the saving is done mainly in small workshop manually, and only the final stages of production are done in factories, which mostly work for foreign firms. What is remarkable for the sports good industry is especially for the manufacturing of footballs is that it bears elements of a formal as well as of informal sector, despite the fact that most of the production is export oriented and has to meet the high quality standard of international market. It is surprising to note that many of the processes such as cutting of wood and rubber sheets, stitching, etc., are being done under the most primitive, we can say, on a very primary stage condition by unskilled, even child laborers. So, however, the issue of child labor in stitching of soccer footballs had attracted worldwide media attention. In most of the cases, it is economic pressure which forces the families to let their children work as football stitchers. In the sports goods industry, all products are made with first class design and perfect quality. They are manufactured according to international standards, and all steps in the manufacturing process are supervised for quality control, including the selection of raw materials and hand stitching. Sialkot was selected to supply footballs for the 1999 World Cup, and even afterwards it has supplied their footballs to many times to the FIFA World Cup. Sports goods are football, hockey sticks, cricket bat, volleyball, golf ball, badminton rackets, basketball, boxing gloves. 40 million balls are annually exported, worth to like 210 US dollar, and it's like Sialkot exports 70% of world demand for inflatable balls, and it was increased by 7.8% in the last year, and the employment opportunities were more than 200,000, and exporting goods were worth like $450 million, and the total companies who are asking for making these sports goods are 2,400 in total. Surgical industry of Pakistan. Pakistan Surgical Industries Private Limited was established in 1974 and now has become one of the leading manufacturers of surgical. Pakistan has a history spanning over a century of skilled craftsmen in manufacturing surgical instruments. This has, over the last few decades, combined with modern equipment and manufacturing technology to produce surgical instruments of the highest quality, which are exported to over 140 countries around the world. The surgical instrument manufacturing is located in the cities of Sialkot, Lahore, and their ancillary areas. It's been nearly 100 years that the people of this region are manufacturing surgical instruments. The industry has transformed from a very small level and low technological base to a highly sophisticated or experienced level. The surgical instruments manufacturing has come a long way from repair of ordinary instruments and scissors to the manufacturing of complicated surgical instruments. Initially, the industry started manufacturing very few basic instruments to cater or to serve for the needs of the local hospitals only. In the late 1940s, the industry got some orders from Egypt and Afghanistan worth a few $1,000s. Currently, more than 95% of instruments manufactured in Sialkot are exported to other countries. The surgical instruments sector is considered as a subsector of the light engineering sector, contributes about 70% of the total exports of this sector. The skills in the industry has reached a stage where it has enabled the industry to manufacture nearly 10,000 different types of surgical instruments, which are exported to the world market. Despite its size and importance in the global economy and employment generation potential, and surgical instrument industry faced great criticism and protest from the international community on the issue of child labor. It has been pointed out by visiting teams from the Western world that due to poverty, unemployment, and lack of educational institutions, many of the parents have no choice but to send their children to these factories for earning. However, due to the pressure from the international community, it was assured by a number of factory owners and government organizations that the children will be discouraged from work in these factories. It will also decided that better working conditions, including improved health and safety measures, would be provided to the laborers working in these factory units. I think this is enough for today's lecture. Here is your assignment. You have to do two questions from unit number 9 on page number 186. Question number 8 with its A and B parts, and question number 9 with its all A, B, C parts. So please do this work neatly in your neat notebook and make a margin line. Please must write today's date and day, and please maintain your index. Thank you so much, dear students, for watching this video. If you have any confusion, any query, drop down your queries in comment box, and we'll meet up again with another video, with another lecture. Please take care of yourself. I will must say, take good care of yourself and your family, and please stay at home, stay safe, stay healthy, stay blessed. Bye.